Hi, I'm Alan Tatro with Global Sugar Art, and in the last two videos I showed you how to slice a cake and fill it with either a fruit filling or a buttercream filling, and in the subsequent video I showed you how to ice a cake so that you wouldn't get any crumbs on it. In this video I'm going to teach you how to do some basic buttercream decorating. So I have my 9-inch cake all iced and ready to go. And the first thing I want to do is divide this cake into 8 even sections. And the easiest way to do that, if you don't have a fancy guide marker that you can set the cake on, is to use your spatula and make a mark at one end of the cake and then straight across at the other one. And then turn your cake and do the same thing. So now you have 4. And then in between each of the 4 marks, mark one more. And that will give you your 8 markings. So now my cake is evenly divided into 8 sections. And I'm going to do a garland border down the side of the cake on all 8 sections. So now I'd like to mark where I'm going to pipe that garland. And there are many different techniques that you can use. Probably the newest one on the market is this Wilton garland marker. There are different notches here, so I can move the garland over and make it longer, or I can make it deeper by bringing this down or up. So I can figure out how much distance I have between 2 marks. I can set this accordingly, and then I can just push that into the cake, and that will mark the cake for me. So that's one method. An old tried and true method is just to use a round cookie cutter, and you can, if you have a set of just like basic round cookie cutters, choose the one that's going to fit the cake the best. So look at the distance between your marks, and then you can just choose which one you want and push into the side of the cake, and that will also mark it. And here's a trick from years past when none of these things were available, except maybe the cookie cutters, is a plain plastic cup. And of course you can get plastic cups with different diameters. So what I like to do is I like to take one plastic cup and cut it in half. This allows you a couple things. If you're doing a larger cake or a smaller cake and you want 8 segments on every cake, you can squeeze this together so that it goes right in the exact spot that you want. If you let it go, it'll make a wider garland. If you squeeze it together, it'll make a narrower garland. They're disposable, they work with any cake, and you can buy plastic cups anywhere, and you often have one at home. So this is a very, very easy way to mark the garland. So I'm going to actually use the cup, and I'm going to just make those marks right in the side of the cake. I don't have to make a deep impression. This is just a guide for where I'm going to be piping. There. So now I have my 8 marks with a little tool that you probably have sitting around at home and you never thought about using. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fit a bag, a pastry bag with buttercream icing and a 104 Wilton tip, or any number 104 tip. This is a typical rose tip. It has a wide end on the bottom, and the top end has a very thin end. So we're going to use this one upside down. We're going to put the thick end at the top and the thin end at the bottom. And I'm going to turn the bag so that the thin end at the bottom comes toward me. So I'm going to bring that toward me. I'm going to pipe a little bit right down on the board here so you can see what I'm planning on doing. I'm just going to go in an up and down motion and create a little bit of a ribbon. And that's how I will prepare that's how I'll pipe the border, the garland border around the bottom of my cake. So we'll start that first. Again, the large part of the tip is up and the small end is down and slightly out from the cake. I'm just following my marks. Now I'm going to put another border on the inside, so I'm not too worried if I'm not completely covering my garland mark that I made with the cup. The buttercream I'm using today is a pre-made CK buttercream. It's delicious. It pipes beautifully. It goes on the cake very smoothly. You can see a nice smooth sides that we got on top. And two more. Okay, so we have our garlands all done. Now I want to do an inner garland. This time I'm going to use a pink icing, and I fitted the bag with a number 16 star tip. If you don't have a 16, use a 14, 15, or 17, or 18. Anything in that range will work. And I'm going to use an E motion this time. So when I'm piping, I'm just going to think of going in a little bit of a circle like I was writing the letter E. Just very consistently, and start from one end and go to the other in that same E motion. So I'll start with the left hand side of the garland. There you go, and that's going to be the inside of the garland. If you're beginning piping, it's a good idea to use a little bit larger tip. The smaller the tip, the more mistakes show up really easily. So if you're just beginning, I'd recommend you use a little bit larger tip. This is really all about pressure control, and when you're using a very small tip, you have to put more pressure to get the icing out of the bag. And in doing that, it becomes a little bit harder to handle it, and your hand can really start shaking. One of the tricks that I've always used is I use my left hand, because I'm right-handed, just as a guide. And sometimes I will just hold the bag or just put my finger on it just to steady my hand. The other trick with buttercream decorating, especially for beginners, is don't use a large bag. Use an 8-inch or 10-inch bag at the most. The more icing that you have in the bag, or the larger the bag, the more pressure is required to push that icing out. And then you'll really shake a lot more, and your hand will get tired very fast. So when you're just beginning, use a smaller bag. It's much easier to control what you're doing. Okay, so we have the garland, and we have the piped star design on the inside. Now we're going to do a large shell border on the bottom. For that, I'm going to use a tube 22, a tip 22. You could also use a 30, a 31, or a 32, or even a 19 or a 20 or 21 if you have that on hand. For the bottom border, I'm going to do a regular shell. The shell is done at a 45-degree angle, and basically I'm going to squeeze the bag, lift up slightly, and the icing will roll over the top. And then I'll decrease pressure as I bring that down, and I'll completely let go of the pressure before I pull away. So again, I'm going to squeeze, lift up slightly, and then as I relax the pressure, I'm going to bring that down. I'll do one more. After you do a couple thousand of these, you can do them in your sleep. They're really not that hard to do. So on the side of the board, or the side of the cake, excuse me, again, I'm coming in at a 45-degree angle. Just try to keep them even, consistent. And remember, before you pull away, to release that pressure completely. A turntable makes decorating much easier. If you notice, I have this cake on a turntable. It doesn't have to be an expensive turntable when you begin, but it needs to be a sturdy one so that the cake doesn't tip over the turntable. especially when you get into larger cakes. And there we go. There's my last shell. And now at the top, I'm going to do a reverse shell using the white icing again. This time I've chosen a tip 18. And for the reverse shell, it's done the same way as the regular shell, except I'm going to make a clockwise and then a counterclockwise movement. So again, at a 45-degree angle, I'm going to go in one direction and then the other. So it's just counterclockwise and clockwise, just back and forth. And this gives you this little swirly reverse shell pattern. And I'm going to do that right on the top of the cake, right on the very top edge. I've already chosen my flowers for this cake, and I know that there's a little bit of yellow in the arrangement. I'm using gumpaste flowers that I've colored myself, and that is the subject of the next video in this series, by the way, on how to accent and color your own gumpaste flowers, the ones that you can purchase. So I know there's a little bit of yellow in that arrangement, so I'm going to want to add a few accents of yellow on this cake. So to do that, I put a number 3 tip in a bag of yellow, and along the shell on the bottom, I'm going to drop a simple string. So I'm just going to hold the tip right where the shells join. I'm going to pull out, and then I'm going to bring that over to where they join again. So I drop a nice string. It's important that you don't drag the tip and try to place the string. The secret to this is bringing the string out and then over. And then they'll be nice and even. See if I can get some more here so the camera can pick them up. This is a good way to add an accent color without a lot of piping and without adding a lot more decorations on the cake. And the last 3. Okay, so we have the yellow on the bottom, we have the yellow on the top. Now if I wanted to add just a little bit more accent, I could use this same yellow tip and I could drop a little loop right here and then a smaller loop. So these are just little accents that sort of set off your decorating, add a little bit of color where you want it on the cake. I'm just making a larger loop and then a smaller loop. And the last one. Okay, so we're all set. Now you might want to write on the cake. And writing is an art in itself, and that's something we can do in a future video. We do have an anniversary coming up, so I'm just going to write happy anniversary on this cake and finish this with some flowers. So I have to decide where do I want my writing and where do I want to put my flowers. And I know I would like my flowers sort of in an arch at the top of the cake. So I'm going to choose where I want the front of my cake to be, and then I'm just going to write happy anniversary right here. If you notice, I'm using my finger for my left hand just as a guide. I can go back and embellish some of these ends. There. So we have happy anniversary on the cake. And to finish it, I have some gum paste flowers that now these are gum paste flowers that you can purchase from our website, and they came with just the calla lilies and some pale pink roses. And in my next video in this series, I'll show you how to accent these flowers with petal dust and luster dust so that you can really make them pop and put in the colors that you want for the cake. So all I'm going to do is add this to the top. There. And that's it. You have a complete anniversary or a birthday cake, any occasion you want. You can make this cake with different colors for any occasion. It's a simple and easy buttercream cake that everyone would enjoy. I'll just put this so that you can see it, finished product. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Today I've used the disposable key seal bags, and I've used tips 3 and 2 for the writing. 3 was done with the string work. I used 104 for the white garland and 16 for the pink inside garland. And let's see, I used 22 for the shell on the bottom and 18 for the reverse shell on the top. And again, you can use the garland markers by Wilton, or this is a simple set of round cookie cutters from Fat Daddios that will also let you mark the garland. And I think that's about it, and the CK Buttercream. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. You can find all the products at globalsugarart.com. And thank you for watching.